Arttu, Arttu, kun ei noita trailer saa työ. Oh yeah.
She's got a business in Vicksburg now.
Yeah. She's a farmer's wife.
Really, she's got her own business with the nose, ear, and throat. Chicago. Coffee shop, paying him some mortgage bill.
Hollywood, isn't she? I think she's in Hollywood. Persona non grata in video. Oké, wat van die?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. By virtue of the power vested in me as Chancellor, I hereby constitute this congregation of the University of the Free State for the conferment of master's and doctoral degrees by all the faculties at the University of the Free State. I therefore confer the degrees on all the candidates that the deans will present to this congregation. In addition, I hereby confer degrees on those whose names appear in the program but who are not present here today. Please be seated.
Good morning, Goeiemorgen, Dumelang. Good morning to the 2016 postgraduate graduates that we are celebrating here today. I would like to welcome a number of people to this ceremony. First of all, the Chancellor of the University, Dr. Hudson Mohele. Our Chairperson of Council, Judge Ian van der Merwe. The Acting Rector, Professor Nikki Morgan. The Chairperson of the Convocation, Professor Grobler. My fellow Vice-Rectors in spirit, the Deans of the faculties and their representatives, and in particular, I would like to welcome the supervisors of these Master's and Doctoral Graduandi and all the academic colleagues present here today. Last but not least, a special word of welcome to Ferial Hafeji, who is receiving an honorary doctorate at this ceremony today. Graduations are always an occasion for celebration. This morning, I believe, we have two special reasons to celebrate. First is that we are here. And this would not normally be the case, but anyway. 2016 has been a very difficult year for the whole of the higher education system. The University of the Free State has had its quota of disruptions, difficulties, and struggles. The fact that we are here today is a tribute to the dedication and commitment of our academics, and we celebrate them. The second reason to be happy today is that each master's and doctoral student who graduates is one more highly skilled individual for a country in desperate needs for this type of skills. Also, potentially, some of you would choose to stay in academia and become the next generation of teachers for our students. This is also a huge contribution to the country, and for that, we are enormously proud as a university. Now, a number of housekeeping matters. All graduates have in their chairs a graduation exit survey, and we ask you to please complete the survey and leave it in your chair. This is a new and important initiative of the university to start tracking its graduates, and we will really, really appreciate you filling it in. So please, no matter how excited and distracted you are about how you look, just fill in the exit survey. Second, housekeeping issues. The university makes use of official photographers who are present in the hall today. A number of freelance photographers have, however, been allocated areas in the campus where they may take photographs of graduates. These photographers, however, are not accredited, and the university therefore cannot guarantee the quality of their photographs. Those of you who arrive after the pre-ceremony announcements are asked to look closely at page 2 of the graduation program. Today is a time to celebrate the achievements of each graduate, and hearing the names of the graduates is a very important thing for every family. So please limit your cheers and expressions of happiness to the necessary minimum. Be aware that leaving the hall is a distraction for the audience, and please make sure that your cell phone is switched off or in silence. It is an enormous pleasure for me to introduce our speaker for today. Dr. Mafo Rakometsi is the Chief Executive Officer of Umalusi, which is the Quality Council for General and Further Education and Training in South Africa. He holds a junior secondary teacher certificate, a Bachelor of Arts honors from the University of the North, a Master of Arts in History, good for you, in the University of Natal, and a Doctor in Philosophy, also in History, from our University of the Free State, as well as a Management Development Program for our university. So first reason to welcome Dr. Rakometsi is that he is a COPSI. Second reason is that he started his illustrious career in education as a secondary school teacher. He later served as a lecturer, senior lecturer, and head of department at Silla College of Education, while simultaneously serving as part-time lecturer in the Kwakwa campus of the University of the North. He served also as head of subject advisory services at the Velcom Education District, head of examinations at the Northwest Department of Education, Director and Chief Director for Educational Development and Professional Services at the Free State Department of Education. Dr. Rakometsi has served as Superintendent General for Education at the Free State Department of Education before he joined Umalusi in 2009. These career opportunities have afforded him with exposure in strategic leadership at provincial, national, and intermediate level. In his capacity as CEO of Umalusi, Dr. Rakometsi also sits in the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations, the QCTO, the Council on Higher Education, but he also serves in the Pretoria Boys High School governing body and in the Council of the Helderberg College. He's deeply committed to see the South African education system function at an optimum level in order to give all children equal opportunities. And given how busy Umalusi is at this time of the year, we are doubly thankful because we have him with us today. Please, address us.
Chancellor Dr. Kgotsomogele, Acting Vice Chancellor Professor Nikki Morgan, Chairperson of the Council of the University, Judge Ian van der Merwe, Registrar Dr. Giv Finger, Deputy Vice Chancellors, Deans, and Senior Office Bearers of the University of the Free State, Council members, academic and non-academic staff, parents, guardians, partners, spouses, graduates, and students, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege and a tremendous honor for me to be speaking to you at this grand occasion. Graduation epitomizes every student's academic dream and pursuit. It is also a moment to look back at what one has achieved in the many academic programs and courses undertaken as you all prepare to enter the professional careers of your choice. It's an honor for me to stand here as a former graduate of the University of the Free State, COFSIS. I'm proud to be associated with such an institution of great stature. To this day, I walk tall among my peers because I studied at this outstanding institution. The University of the Free State carries a long and respected tradition of providing good quality education. This institution, ladies and gentlemen, has produced numerous men and women who have become very influential leaders in various vocational fields in our society. Some of them hold very high positions in South Africa, on the continent, and across the world. I once again congratulate you for your relentless sacrifice and resilient spirit that enabled you to attain this honor. Even most importantly, much appreciation goes to the mothers, fathers, the guardians, siblings, friends, and relatives who stood side by side with you as you pressed hard to achieve your dreams. Today, as we look back at your journey, a journey that started out with hesitant, tentative steps, we see just how far you have come and despite all the ups and downs, the mountain peaks and valleys, you have made it, and I salute you. More than 2 decades after democracy, we remain a society on a steep developmental trajectory. In spite of the many developmental gains, much remains to be gained. There is a pressing need to increase the numbers of capable and competent graduates in South Africa who are well prepared for the changing demands of society and the economy. Higher education institutions have a responsibility to produce competent and capable graduates imbued with the right values and attitudes and equipped with appropriate knowledge and skills to develop as competent and capable professionals ready to serve our society. Embarking on a career in the 21st century can be an exhilarating, challenging, and satisfying experience, as much as it can induce anxiety and uncertainty at the same time in equal measure. The 21st century world of work requires a new and diverse competencies and capabilities in which speed and agility are of the essence. With the kinds of technologies we have access to and the amount of knowledge being created every day, the pace of change in the next 10 years will at least be equal and or surpass that of the last 100 years, according to Ina Yatula 2015. A superabundance of knowledge and content of all varieties will necessitate the acquisition of new skills for the selection, aggregation, and analysis of information. It has been predicted that many of the jobs that will be required to be filled in a decade are not even known yet. Such is the rapid pace of change. Whereas in the 20th century, the workplace was driven largely by procedures, hierarchies, policies, and protocols, the 21st century is increasingly driven by a focus on outcomes. In the world of work, work is becoming increasingly unstructured, as rapid changes and shifts require a more flexible and creative approach. Put simply, employability can be viewed as having the right corpus of knowledge, skills, experiences, behaviors, and attributes, as well as achievements responsive to the contemporary workplace. It follows, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, that employability should be embedded into all curricula, learning and teaching policies, processes, and practices to be responsive to transformation goals within a developmental milieu. Graduate employability is vital to South Africa's economic growth, not only nationally, but regionally and internationally too. Defining employability and what it entails at the institutional level can be complex and unclear. At the same time, employers have specific needs in terms of graduate knowledge and skills, which they do not often get to communicate to students or to higher education institutions. The Partnership for 21st Century Learning Initiative identifies some of the core skills and knowledge that graduates need to succeed in work, life, and citizenship. These 21st century skills are the building blocks for the 21st century learning and are essential for success in today's world. These include innovation, agility, sense-making, collaboration and communication, as well as entrepreneurship. The next segment of my speech ladies and gentlemen, is an attempt to illuminate what these are. First is innovation. This entails the translation of a good idea into a tangible outcome, financial, social, or environmental, which supports the creation of stakeholder value. In other words, innovation is trying to figure out a way to do something better than it has been ever done before. According to Global Innovation Management Institute, business leaders around the world recognize innovation as a main driver of new growth and success. Individual success in an organization is often dependent on how innovative one is. The value one adds to the organization through innovation is acknowledged and rewarded commensurately. Many go to work every day focused on what the job immediately requires them to do, with a fair proportion doing even less, or focused on the paycheck expected at the end of the month. Innovators, ladies and gentlemen, are focused on how their skills and capabilities can add value in the workplace. Like cream rises to the top, so too do the best and most innovative thinkers rise to the top in the organization. Ideas on their own are not enough. They often have to be sold to skeptical or indifferent bosses and then demonstrated practically. A tendency to give up easily or to be derailed by obstacles, large and small, will mean that your innovative ideas will remain just those, only for you to see someone else translating them into reality because they persisted. The key ingredients to be innovative are, firstly, to have the ability to identify opportunities and take risks in a complex environment. Secondly, to embrace perpetual change and knowledge disruption. Thirdly, not to be reliant on past experiences, way of doing things, or established facts. And most importantly, and lastly, to acknowledge the importance of and be energized through lifelong learning. Furthermore, innovative thinking imagines a desired future state and is intuitive and open to possibility. Rather than identifying right or wrong answers, the goal is to find a better way and explore multiple possibilities where doubt and ambiguity are seen as advantages, not as obstacles. It is in this environment, ladies and gentlemen, that an innovator flourishes and comes into his own or her own. Second is agility. This is the ability to be flexible, responsive, and adaptive during times of uncertainty and change, to be able to assess new and ever-changing realities or situations, and quickly shift attention, perspective, and behavior to adapt to the changing environment. Closely related is the ability to cope with negative situations or recover quickly from failure, disappointment, or disruptive change. Agility, ladies and gentlemen, helps an individual to see change as normal, leaving behind a reactive approach where external change is defining the outcome rather than the individual defining the outcome. McCallum distinguishes between two groups of employees in the 21st century organizational setting. First, the agile, that don't just see and understand rapid change and uncertainty, but are able to embrace it, take advantage of it, and see it as an opportunity. And second, the reactives, who see change and uncertainty as circumstances that need to be managed and controlled, and are confined within patterns of thinking that make them unable and unwilling to lead, significant change processes. Finding yourself in the right category will ultimately shape one's destiny in the workplace and generally one's future success. Third is sense-making. This is the term introduced by Carol Wake and is the ability to make sense of what is going on in a changing and ever more complex environment. It refers to how we structure the unknown so as to be able to act in it. Sense-making, ladies and gentlemen, involves coming up with a plausible understanding, a map of a shifting and volatile environment, testing this map through data collection, action, and conversation, and then refining or abandoning the map depending on its value, relevance, and credibility. Fourth is collaboration and communication. A bright, talented, and well-trained individual can achieve much. But there are very few workplaces where that is enough. In most cases, it will be necessary for you to contribute to a team of varying size and ability so that collective efforts can achieve major outcomes way beyond the capability of a single individual. Get this right, and you'll be globally competitive. As defined by the Asia Society and the Council on Higher Education, a globally aware and competent student can investigate the world, weigh perspectives, communicate ideas, take action, and apply expertise to different areas and disciplines. The fifth is entrepreneurship. It is important for graduates entering the job market not to be confined merely to the role of job seekers. An entrepreneurial mindset can empower students to create their own future, create their own wealth, create their own sense of pride and self-worth, and become job creators instead of job seekers. In the words of Sir Richard Branson, I quote, "Entrepreneurs have been the driving force for growth in the countries around the world. Their ability to see opportunities, to see order in the midst of chaos, where others see only issues, problems, and disorganization, has helped transform communities and economies," close quote. The challenge is to look within and discover where you are only a job seeker. Whether you are only a job seeker, or is there an entrepreneur inside that you have recognized yet, let alone awoken your entrepreneurial spirit? All these are important 21st century skills. But I want to submit to you this morning that all of these without integrity are worthless. The absence or presence of integrity will determine whether you sink or swim. Integrity, ladies and gentlemen, is a non-negotiable. I believe that to inspire confidence, there must be trust, and that without integrity, there can be no trust. Such integrity should extend to every aspect of one's life. Having integrity of purpose, this is a must, and this is not negotiable. The absence of integrity will bring any of the positive attributes I have mentioned to naught. In conclusion, there was a time when higher education equipped us with enough knowledge to carry us through a career until retirement. Those days are far gone. Today's knowledge is often obsolete within a few months or in a few years. To be successful, it is most important to be a lifelong learner. Knowing is important, and that is what a good higher education equips you with. Hereafter, you will be on your own. Knowing that you don't know will become increasingly important, and equally important will be your ability to formulate the questions necessary to seek new learning. In this quest, I wish you well, and may you reach greater heights and success, fulfillment and joy in your future careers. It is my fervent prayer and wish that the graduations that we're having today will bring rain for the people of the Free State. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rakometsi. Now it is my privilege to introduce to you a very young person who is here to sing for us. Setsuane Ntseki is a 19-year-old soprano who was born in Botshabelo. She is currently learned at the Mariasdal Secondary School in Two Esprit, and she's doing grade 12. She joined the school choir in 2012 and eventually took singing lessons with Mr. Tsepo Finger as her teacher. She represented the school at the Music on Solo Singing competition and was the category winner in 2013, 2014, and 2016. Setsuane also took part in South African schools choral competition and obtained second and third positions in regional and district eliminations in 2014 and 2015. She enrolled for a music certificate at Trinity College of Music and obtained grade 6 in music theory and grade 7 in practical music singing. Setsuane wishes to further her music studies at the University of the Free State from 2017 and aspires to become a professional opera singer in one of the world's famous opera houses. Please help me to welcome Setsuane Ntseki, who is going to sing for us, accompanied by Pedro Engelbrecht. Well, I'm very happy to bet that we are going to be hearing about this young woman for years to come. Professor Feliun, you are here. I saw you in the procession. Your student is here waiting for you. So, let's continue with the ceremony. Thank you very, very much. Let's give her another round of applause. I now call upon the Acting Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, Professor Robert Peacock, to present the recipient of the honorary doctorate with her degree.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the privilege to request you to confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy, honoris causa, on Feril Haffajee. Feril Haffajee is one of the most fearless and highly respected newspaper editors of her generation. She has carved her name in the annals of South African and African journalism history through her tenacity and courage in building a robust, independent media, her journalistic integrity, and her unfailing commitment to a strong and healthy democracy. Her record of accomplishments as a trailblazing journalist is evident in the culture of excellence at City Press, which she has steered in a role as editor-in-chief since 2009. Feril Haffajee is nominated for the degree of PhD honoris causa in the Faculty of the Humanities at the University of the Free State. Her nomination rests on the following evidence. The daughter of garment workers, Feril Haffajee always knew that she wanted to be a journalist. Growing up in the suburb of Bosmont in Johannesburg, the last born of very strict, hard-working parents, who, however, also made time for joy, Haffajee developed a passion for books and reading at an early age. At high school, she was the editor of the Green Times, as she had always considered journalism to be a tool through which you can impact society and your world. After high school, Haffajee was accepted to study journalism at Rhodes University, but her parents could not afford to send her away for a tertiary education. Instead, she went to Wits University, where she studied African literature and English. In the late 1980s, she attended a lecture by Anton Harber, who had just started the Weekly Mail. There and then, Haffajee decided that she would like to work at this fledgling newspaper. In 1991, she was accepted into the Weekly Mail training program. Haffajee is quoted as saying, "That space really shaped me, as it was geared towards training young people. People who worked with Feril at the time remember her as very driven and talented, smart and very capable." After a few years as the Labour reporter at the newspaper, and just before the 1994 elections, Haffajee decided to expand her horizons by entering the field of broadcast journalism in an attempt to become a well-rounded journalist. She describes her stint at the SAB as fun in the context of an interesting time to work there. Haffajee also had the honor, at the age of 22, to sit on the panel of journalists who did the first interview with Nelson Mandela after he was released from jail in 1990. After leaving the SABC, she was appointed as a political journalist at the Financial Mail, before rising to the rank of managing editor at the newspaper. In 1999, Haffajee joined the Mail and Guardian, where she became media editor, economics writer, associate editor, and finally, 2004, editor-in-chief. She was 36 at the time and became the first woman to edit a national mainstream newspaper in South Africa. Haffajee admits she was surprised about her appointment to this coveted position, as it was a boys' club. After a decade at the Mail and Guardian, Haffajee was appointed editor-in-chief at City Press. During her time at the Mail and Guardian, the newspaper recorded its highest ever circulation figures. The weekly also became known for its courageous, high-quality investigative journalism under Haffajee's editorship. At City Press, Haffajee's brief from management was to make the newspaper a paper for all South Africans. She is quoted as saying, "I think it's important that we don't have black media, white media any longer. Haffajee took on the mammoth task of repositioning City Press with enthusiasm. It now boasts 1.75 million readers and sets the weekly local news agenda. Under Haffajee's editorship, City Press also launched the 100 World-Class South Africans. According to Haffajee, the genesis of 100 World-Class South Africans was the need for journalism to celebrate South Africa's successes as well as its difficulties. And it served as a reminder for all of us to stand tall and proud amongst great nations. She added, one of the many adverse legacies of apartheid is an often debilitating inferiority complex. If a system tells you often enough that you're not good enough, you begin to believe it. I think that sometimes we in South Africa still suffer this affliction. Here's a collection of men and women who can guide us to a different path, people who have reached beyond themselves. We salute them all and learn from the many wonderful experiences of persistence, talent, and truth-telling we chronicle here. When Ruda Landman asked her in an interview whether she consciously chose to become an editor, she answered, "My instinct was to be quiet and just to edit quietly, but the role was thrust upon me, and I have come to enjoy it and to learn how to put very unpopular opinions out there to create a different agenda. It's not always the easiest thing to do because you really can get people quite fired up, but I understand it as part of the shaping of what it is we're going to be as a nation." Apart from her illustrious career as a journalist and editor, Haffajee has also distinguished herself in the local and international arena. Her achievements include Young Global Leader of the World Economic Forum 2008, Media Woman of the Year 2006, ShopRite Checkers Woman of the Year 2004, and being chosen as one of the New Africans' 100 most influential Africans. Haffajee is a recipient of the International Press Freedom Award given by the US-based Committee to Protect Journalists, the CPJ. She's also a former chairperson of the South African National Editors Forum, SANEF. As a board member of the International Women's Media Foundation, the World Editors Forum, and the International Press Institute, Haffajee keeps the broader community aware of South Africa's strong tradition of a free and fearless press. She also serves on the boards of Interpress Service and Gender Links, an NGO geared towards improving the media's coverage of development and gender empowerment. In 2012, Haffajee received the Phil Weber Award, the highest accolade for performance in the Naspers Group. She was also named in the top 10 of members' list of 10 of the 50 most prominent and influential journalists on Twitter. The University of the Free State considers it a privilege and an honor to confer the degree of PhD honoris causa on Ferrell Haffajee. So, Mr. Chancellor, I now request you to confer the degree of Doctor of Philosophy honoris causa on Dr. Ferrell Haffajee.
I now call upon the Dean of the Faculty of Economic and Management Sciences, Professor Hendrik Krukamp, to present the candidates for the conferring of their degrees in the order shown in the program. He will be followed by the other deans in the various faculties in the manner indicated in the program.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the privilege to request you to confer the following degrees on the candidates I introduce to you. Masters of Business Administration, MBA. Bok, LA. Where's your ticket? Mashlambani, TF. Maketa, M. Mate, M.I. Muwanyane, M.M. Mokoto, P.E. Parkis, M.M. Rousseau, P.D. Sifalani, P.J. Smith, S.C.M. Sontlaka, X.H. Tole, K.L. Masters of Commerce, M.Com. Malloy, T.G. with specialization in economics. Ntike, M.S. with specialization in business management. Master of Development Studies, MDS. Kashe, M. Yeah, doctorals. Okay, Mr. Chancellor, I now have the privilege to request you to confer the following doctoral degrees. I request the promoters to accompany their candidates to the podium. Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, to Burger A.J. with specialization in Computer Information Systems, met spesialisasie in rekenaar-inligtingstelsels, with a thesis titled Determining the Usability of the Microsoft Kinect as a Computer Input Device for Parkinson's Disease Patients. The promoter, Dr. L. De Wet.
Mr. Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randi Burger Andries Johannes. The candidate makes a contribution towards allowing Parkinson's sufferers to use a computer to enter text despite the degenerative symptoms of this progressive neurological disease that affects the control of body movements. The introduction of a natural user interface device, the Microsoft Kinect, allowed patients to use an on-screen keyboard to enter text via body movements. The set of requirements derived from the results of the research, which included test tool and environmental settings, as well as the positive subjective satisfaction ratings from the participants, places Microsoft Connect in line as a possible contributor towards increasing the quality of life of Parkinson's patients. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Andries Johannes Burger.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, to Masina G.K. with specialization in business administration, with a thesis titled A Comparative Study of Indigenous versus Foreign SMEs in Malawi. The promoter, Dr. W. Vermeulen.
Mr. Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randis Masima George Kautsa. The candidate makes a contribution to the field of entrepreneurship, which is now in the spotlight in many countries worldwide. With this contribution, he addresses the problems facing the indigenous SMEs as compared to the foreign SMEs in Malawi. Based on the analysis in the study, solutions are put forward for the problems that the indigenous SMEs have been facing. Given that SMEs are considered a backbone of a country's economy, a vibrant SME sector will be of much significance to the economy of Malawi if the recommendations put forward are implemented. Chancellor, I present to you Masima George Kautsa.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Ongera, EM, with specialization in development studies, with a thesis titled Gender Justice and the Capabilities Approach, Experiences of Women Legal Graduates in Kenya. Promoter, Professor M.J. Walker. Co-promoter, Dr. M.G. Wilson Stradom.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randi Ongera Elizabeth Mukera. The candidate makes a significant contribution to our understanding of gender equality and development in Kenya and the wider world. Gender inequality is a challenge in Kenya and elsewhere and needs urgent attention in order to promote individual and social well-being. Drawing on the capabilities approach, she investigates gender justice beyond equal numbers to consider how structures and conditions in and outside higher education intersect to influence women's opportunities and freedoms to choose and lead meaningful and productive lives. Based on the findings, the candidate proposes a list of capabilities that should be fostered to promote gender justice in higher education and society more broadly.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the privilege to request to you to confer the following degrees on the candidates I introduced to you. Masters of Arts, MA. Juris Ingrid Kemogetswe, with specialization in geography, met specialisatie in geografie. Master of Arts in Gender Studies, MA Gender Study. Ndlebe September Veronica. Master of Arts in Clinical Psychology, MA Klinische Sielkunde. Matumu Kurula Penelope. Mbata Silindele. Master of Arts in Communication Science, MA in Kommunikasiekunde. Van Niekerk Gert Abraham. Master of Arts in Language Practice, MA Taalpraktyk. Tsele Siningi Isabel. Master of Arts in Language Studies, MA Taalstudie. Silingile Freddy. Theletsani Telo Thompson. Master in Governance and Political Transformation, M in Regeerkunde en Politieke Transformasie. Muruvi Kudzanai Terence. Nkabiti Lecholo. Okay, thank you. Mr. Chancellor, I now have the privilege to request you to confer the following doctoral degrees. I request the promoters to accompany the candidates to the podium. Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Bester Ronald Christou, with specialization in history, met specialisatie in geskiedenis. With a thesis titled The Small Arms of the Boer Republics, the Acquisition, Use and Influence from 1880 to 1918. The promoter, Professor R. Wessels, co-promoter, mede-promoter, Dr. J.C. Luke.
Mr. Chancellor, allow me to introduce to you Dr. Anders Bester, Ronald Christou Bester. The candidate focuses on the firearms used by the Transvaal Boers during the War of Independence of 1880 to 1881, and then on the officially purchased firearms acquired by the Orange Free State and the Transvaal Boer Republics in the run-up to the Anglo-Boer War of 1899 to 1902. The strength of this thesis lies inter alia in the fact that the candidate has placed the acquisition and use of small arms by the Boers in a broader international context. The major impact of the Boers and their Mausers on effectuating victory for the Allies in the First World War of 1914 to 1918 is clearly demonstrated. Chancellor, I present to you Ronald Christou Bester.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Deploy Shirley, with specialization in Africa Studies, with specialisatie in Africa Studies, with a thesis titled Pilgrimage to Sacred Sites in the Eastern Cape, Free State, the Eastern Free State, apologies. Promoter, Professor P.J. Nell, co-promoters, mede-promoters, Professor P.J. Post and Professor W. Van Beek.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randa Shirley Deploy. The candidate explores and documents innovatively a fairly unknown phenomenon of formal and informal pilgrimage to sacred sites in the Eastern Free State, that is Mutoleng, Mautsi, and Modderpoort. She embeds her ethnographic research successfully within the theoretical frame of pilgrimage studies and sacred space, from which it was possible to make a substantial contribution to the particular localized phenomenon, as well as to a deepening of the theoretical understanding of pilgrimage, a phenomenon of increased popularity in modern cultures. The status of her contribution is confirmed by independent suggestions of assessors to have the thesis published in book format. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Shirley Deploy.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Erasmus Alt Juanita, with specialization in Afrikaans en Dutch, met specialisatie in Afrikaans en Nederlands, met 'n thesis getiteld Grensoorskriding in alfabet van die voëls, deur S.J. Nodee en Sondag op 'n voëlplaas, deur Johan Nel, promotor, Professor H.P. van Koller.
Geachte kanselier, vergun my om u voor te stel aan Dr. Randa Erasmus Alt Juanita. Die konsepte grensoorskriding en liminaliteit word ondersoek aan die hand van 2 resente en verteenwoordigende Afrikaanse prosa tekste. Hierdie begrippe word eerstens filosofies verhelder en daarna ook literêr omlyn. Die kandidaat toon op oortuigende wyse aan dat grense binne die postmoderne literatuur verval, ook genealogies. Grensoorskriding hou dikwels verband met 'n toestand van ontheemding en vervreemding en word meestal voltrek deur afsondering, die liminale fase en uiteindelike integrasie. Op 'n indringende wyse word aangetoon hoe hierdie prosesse hulle afspeel in die 2 voorbeeldtekste. Een 'n kort verhaalbundel wat duidelike eenheid vertoon en die ander 'n roman. In die proefskrif word in die woorde van 'n eksterne eksaminator, en ek haal aan, op 'n gesofistikeerde en bekwame wyse aangetoon dat 'n metaforiese hantering van die grens as deurbreking in die soeke na 'n nuwe identiteit werksaam is in albei tekste. Sluit die aanhaling. Geagte kanselier, ek bied die Erasmus Alt Juanita.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Manamere Kundai, with specialization in Africa Studies, met specialisatie in Africa Studie, with a thesis titled A History of Malaria in the Southern Eastern Lowveld of Colonial Zimbabwe, 1890 to 1979. Promoter, Professor I.R. Fimister, co-promoter, mede-promoter, Dr. R.J. Williams.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Kundai Manamere. The candidate makes a significant contribution to historical epidemiology and the social history of medicine in general, and that of malaria and colonial medicine in particular, by investigating the relationships between malaria, white settlement, economic development, population mobility, the nature of colonial science and histories of disease and intervention in the low veld of Zimbabwe. Using evidence from the World Health Organization archives, National Archives of Zimbabwe, the Bodleian Library in Oxford, and oral interviews, her thesis demonstrates the importance of histories of past interventions in informing the current drive towards the global elimination of malaria. Histories of past malaria control campaigns can help public health policymakers as well as multilateral organizations make more informed decisions about current interventions. Chancellor, I present to you Kundai Manameri.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Mupuli John Thabo, with specialization in Africa Studies, met specialisatie in Afrika Studie, with a thesis titled A Survey of Sacred Sites and the Construction of Sacredness of Space in the Free State. Promoter, Professor P.J. Nell.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randis John Thabo Moepudi. The candidate offers a survey and description in terms of a taxonomy of a living heritage site of the major sacred sites in the Eastern Free State, that is Mautsi, Mutoleng, Modderpoort, and Oetsi. The research highlights the complex nature, cultural embeddedness, and spiritual significance of these sites, as well as the vulnerability due to a lack of protection and management regimes. The candidate also explores, on a theoretical level, the local descriptions of sacrality to the sites and how these concur with or differ from reigning theories of sacred space. The thesis is an important resource for heritage agencies and for the fields of culture and religious studies, in particular for localized religious expressions and ritual. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. John Thabo Moepudi.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Sebulai Kabelo Wilson, with specialization in language practice, met specialisatie in taalpraktyk, with a thesis titled The Incremental Validity of 3 Tests of Academic Literacy in the Context of a South African University of Technology. Promoter, Professor A.J. Weideman. Co-promoter, mede-promotor, Professor T. van Dijk.
Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of Professor Weideman, I would like to introduce to you Kabelo Wilson Sebulai. The candidate contributes to the national and international debate about readiness for tertiary study by investigating how language tests may function as either access mechanisms or as indicators of academic success. The relevance of the study is its systematic comparison of the performance of a number of tests of academic literacy and the findings about their utility. The analysis is systematic and thorough, and the candidate is to be commended for being brave enough to shy away from being critical of current assessments and their employment by institutions of higher education. His findings are both original and timely. Mr. Chancellor, I present to you Sebulai Kabelo Wilson.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Voges Sarah Maria, with specialization in music, met spesialisasie in musiek, with a thesis titled Critical Success Factors Enabling the Financial Sustainability of South African Donor-Funded Community Music Development Programs. Promotor, Professor M. Viljoen, co-promotor, mede-professor, mede-promotor Dr. J.H. van Zyl.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randa Voges Sarah Maria. The candidate investigates a topic that is of critical importance for the broader field of music education in South Africa. Described by one assessor as pioneering work, her research highlights early childhood development and lifelong learning programs, as well as the use of indigenous music as cornerstones of intercultural learning. The financial sustainability of community music development programs will be enhanced by integrating multi-stakeholder relationship building with effective governance, leadership, strategizing and planning, the effective management of human resources, improved infrastructure and asset management, and a scientific approach to fundraising. New business models should be explored to foster self-reliance through earned income, and community music development programs should embrace pivotal fundraising tools made available through recent changes in the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Codes of Good Practice. A holistic approach that nurtures relationships and speaks to the goodness, kindness, and helpfulness of humankind is advocated, thus demonstrating the traditional African value of Ubuntu. Chancellor, I present to you Voges Sarah Maria.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the privilege to request you to confer the following degrees on candidates I introduced to you in the Faculty of Health Sciences. Master of Medicine, M.Med. Arend J.D., spesialisasie in ortopediese chirurgie. Bernard N.J., specialization in anesthesiology. Blau, W.S., spesialisasie in anesthesiologie. Baigeka A, specialization in pediatrics. Mampunya F.K. and specialization in family medicine. Mailiria W, specialization in cardiothoracic surgery. Mofokeng R.G., specialization in pediatrics. Nicole R., specialisasie in neurologie. Swartboy A.I.R., specialisasie in diagnostiese radiologie. Master of Medical Sciences, Mediese Wetenskappe. Mauvawa C, with specialization in medical physics. Moeti PJ, specialization in human genetics. Seki TR, specialization in medical virology. Van Heerden M, specialisasie in geneeskundige fisika en die graad met lof and a degree with distinction. Master of Sciences in Physiotherapy. Bouwer RT. Greiling JAT. Master of Social Sciences in Nursing, verpleegkunde. Hassan CE. Mr. Chancellor, I have now the privilege to request you to confer the following doctoral degrees. I request the promoters to accompany the candidates to the podium. Doctor of Philosophy Brandt Corlia, with specialization in physiotherapy, specialization in physiotherapy with a thesis titled Pelvic Floor Rehabilitation in Women Undergoing Pelvic Floor Reconstructive Surgery. Promoter, Professor Henny Cronje. Co-promoter, Dr. E.C. Janse van Vuren. Prof. Cronje will do the introduction.
Mr. Chancellor, it's my honor to present to you doctoral candidate Corlia Brandt with her thesis, Pelvic Floor Rehabilitation in Women Undergoing Pelvic Floor Reconstructive Surgery. The candidate investigated physiotherapeutic investigations in women scheduled for surgery for pelvic organ prolapse or pelvic organ descent. Muscle quality and strength of pelvic and abdominal muscles were measured and different physiotherapeutic treatment methods were evaluated. She demonstrated significant benefits of physiotherapy before and after surgery. In addition, she also demonstrated important social, emotional, and lifestyle problems in patients with pelvic organ prolapse. This thesis opens the door for a more comprehensive approach to the treatment of pelvic organ prolapse, as well as for further research in this complex field. And Mr. Chancellor, may I add, she had 3 external examiners, and none of them, or all of them, accepted this thesis without a single change to be made. I think this is quite a remarkable achievement.
Doctor of Philosophy Kumalu Ntombi Valencia, with specialization in health professions education, met specialisasie in gesondheidsberoepe onderwys, with a thesis titled A Stratified Competency-Based Learning Program for Practitioners of Medical Aesthetics in South Africa. Promoter Dr. Johan Besuitnout, co-promoter Dr. C. Vincent Lambert, and Professor Werner Sinclair. Introduction by Dr. Besuitnout.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce to you Dr. Randa Khumalo Ntombi Valencia. The Promovenda conducted an in-depth study with a view to design and develop such a program. Medical aesthetics in South African context today is characterized by a shortage of literature, a lack of evidence-based guidelines relating to the knowledge, skills and competency required by persons practicing medical aesthetics in South Africa, and the absence of a stratified competency-based learning program for the various professions involved in the practice of medical aesthetics. The results of the study indicate that there are very few mechanisms for regulating the practice of medical aesthetics which meet the need for educational competence. The learning program could serve as a source of inspiration to the education system, thereby promoting in the regulation and professionalism of medical aesthetics. Chancellor, I present to you Khumalo Ntombi Valencia.
Doctor of Philosophy, Olga Adenika Oluwakemi, in specialization in health professions education, specialisatie in gesondheidsberoepe onderwys, with a thesis titled Psychometric Analysis as a Quality Assurance System in OSCEs in a Resource-Limited Institution. Promoter Dr. Mpho Yama, co-promoter Professor Hanneke Brits. Introduction by Dr. Yama.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randi Olga Adenika Oluwakemi. The candidate makes a meaningful contribution to one of the important aspects of education, which is assessment. Quality assurance processes are critical in education, more so in health sciences education programs. The formulation of a set of innovative psychometric analysis in OSCEs, that's objective structured clinical examination, highlights the importance of reflecting on assessment practices, designing approaches that can improve education and healthcare practices, and ultimately improving patient care. While the candidate demonstrates the usefulness of this approach in a resource-limited academic environment, the study may also assist other universities in improving and standardizing their approaches to quality assurance in assessments. Chancellor, I present to you Olga Adenika Oluwakemi.
Mr. Chancellor, sir, I have the privilege to request you to confer the following degrees on the candidates I introduce to you. Master in Mineral Resource Management, Meesters in Minerale Hulpbronbestuur. Letsie M.C. Maria J.M. Mia Z.L. Mueti K.K. Nyambe S.L. Chancellor, Master in Disaster Management, M. in Rambestuur. Galasia L. Magatla LN. Banjwa KS. Mohamed C. Ndlazi JM. Stembul AM. Chancellor, a Master in Urban and Regional Planning, a Meesters in Stads- en Streeksbeplanning. Kahonga M. Ndleni MM. And Newaya TP. Tabiri LC. Chancellor, a Master in Sustainable Agriculture, 'n M in volhoubare landbou. Mbata RN. Ntembu AV. Chancellor, a Master of Science, 'n Meesters in Wetenskappe. Alleman Ingrid, with specialization in botany, with spesialisasie in plantkunde. Houman JW, with specialization in geohydrology, met spesialisasie in geodrologie. Maxon J, with specialization in geology, met spesialisasie in geologie. Mogatle T, with specialization in geohydrology, met spesialisasie in geodrologie. Chosane MS, with specialization in chemistry, spesialisasie in chemie. Van Deventer FJ, with specialization in geohydrology, met spesialisasie in geodrologie. Van Deventer WA, with specialization in mathematical statistics, spesialisasie in wiskundige statistiek. Van Rensburg E, with specialization in chemistry, spesialisasie in chemie. Victor G, with specialization in geology, spesialisasie in geologie. Chancellor, a Master of Science in Agriculture, MSc in Landbou. Johanne MM with specialization in agronomy, spesialisasie in agronomie. De Jager W with specialization in agricultural economics, met spesialisasie in landbouekonomie. Oosthuizen PL with specialization in agricultural economics, specialisasie in landbouekonomie, and a degree with distinction. Lang BE with specialization in agricultural economics, specialisasie in landbouekonomie. Mr. Chancellor, sir, I now have the privilege to request you to confer the following doctoral degrees. I request the promoters to accompany the candidates to the podium. A Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Chazovachi Bernard, with specialization in geography, with specialisasie in geography, with a thesis titled Conditions Characterizing the Sustainability of Smallholder Irrigation Schemes, the case of Pakita District, Zimbabwe, and the promoter is Professor Geoffrey Mkwada.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce to you Dr. Chazovachi Bernard. The candidate makes a contribution to a subject which is already under the spotlight, necessitated by climate change and variability, the role of smallholder irrigation agriculture in the attainment of food security is investigated in resource-poor and food-insecure rural communities, following the institution of the new irrigation management transfer policy by the Zimbabwean government. Informed by both the positivist and constructivist paradigms, the study applies the sustainable livelihood approach and viability system-based theory to assess the challenges facing smallholder irrigation schemes in Zimbabwe, and concludes that viability is a function of governance, social cohesion, technical and financial management capabilities, as well as the nature of linkages between the schemes and their environment. With this contribution, the candidate provides the building block to rural policy development and food security in the region. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Bernard Chazovachi.
A Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Cliff MacDonald, with specialization in food science, met spesialisasie in voedselwetenskap, with a thesis titled The Effect of Sodium Reduction on the Chemical, Microbial, and Sensory Quality of Prominent South African Processed Meat Products. The promoter is Professor Arno Higu, and co-promoter Professor Celia Higu.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randus Cliff MacDonald. The candidate makes a significant contribution to a subject which has already been under the spotlight for a considerable period of time. With his contribution, he addresses the urgent need to lower the sodium content in processed meat products. He identifies several strategies for lowering of sodium content in specific processed meat products. Some of his strategies are novel and invaluable to the South African meat industry. One article has been published in an accredited international scientific journal, 2 more were submitted for publication, and 3 presentations have been made at international scientific conferences. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Donald Clough.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Isuma Williams, with specialization in plant breeding met spesialisasie in planteteelt, with a thesis titled Genetic Analysis and Genome-Wide Association Mapping of Carotenoid and Dry Matter Content in Cassava. The promoter, Professor Marika Labuschagne, co-promoters, Professor Liesel Herselman and Dr. Kawuki.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randus Isuma Williams. The candidate contributed significant knowledge on the improvement of provitamin A carotenoids in cassava, which will help combat dietary vitamin A deficiency, which is rife in developing countries. Carotenoids were highly heritable and suitable parents and hybrid progeny with high carotenoid and dry matter content were identified for use in breeding programs. Genetic associations with carotenoid content were studied using a high-throughput genotyping by sequencing platform by genotyping 591 genotypes using 600,035,247 single nucleotide polymorphisms distributed across the cassava genome. A genomic region of 1.37 MB on chromosome 1 was identified to contain 7 SNPs significantly associated with carotenoid content, positioned in the vicinity of a gene known to increase carotenoid concentration in cassava roots. Chancellor, I present to you Isuma Williams.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Grobler Susanna Maria, with specialization in animal science met spesialisasie in veekunde, with a thesis titled Alternative Management Systems to Increase Beef Production Under Extensive Conditions. The promoters, Professor Johan Greiling and Professor Michiel Scholes, and co-promoter, Professor Frikkie Neser.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce to you Dr. Grobler Susanna Maria. The candidate evaluated the effect of different management interventions on extensive beef production that is of importance to beef producers. The results indicated that firstly, it may be more viable to breed beef heifers on an extensive production system at 24 months of age for the first time. Secondly, estrus synchronization prior to natural mating end in cows calving earlier in the season and therefore weaning heavier calves, but however not having a higher calving percentage. Thirdly, when stocking rate is at higher 2, either high utilization grazing or controlled selective grazing can be implemented successfully without any effect on veld condition. And lastly, weather condition, for example, rainfall, humidity, and temperature, had a big impact on extensive beef production. Chancellor, I present to you Grobler Susanna Maria.
A Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Labuschagne, Christian de Jager, with specialization in genetics, met specialisasie in genetica, with a thesis titled The Application of Next Generation Techniques in conservation genetics. The promoter, Professor Paul Grobler, co-promoters Professor Kotze and Dr. Dalton.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randus Labuschagne, Christian de Jager. The candidate presents the development and application of a number of molecular techniques for conservation and management of two of Southern Africa's most iconic endangered species, the African penguin and the white rhinoceros. 3 different types of markers and their use in aiding South African wildlife biodiversity conservation were investigated in these diverse species. The methods developed were additionally applied to captive individuals. The study provides the first report of the complete mitochondrial genome of the African penguin and provides a new genomic marker set, both microsatellites and single nucleotide polymorphisms that have been validated for parentage. Through the use of these molecular tools, investigations on genetic management and reintroductions in the African penguin and the white rhino are now possible. Chancellor, I present to you Christian de Jager Labuschagne.
A Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Mabanza Ntima, with specialization in computer information systems, met spesialisasie in rekenaar-inligtingstelsels, with a thesis titled Determining the Usability of Pedagogical Interface Agents in the Context of Adult Computer Literacy Training, a South African Perspective. Promoter, Dr. De Wet, co-promoter, Professor Scholl.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randus Mabanza Ntima. The candidate addresses computer illiteracy in a third world context. With this contribution, he suggests the use of interface agents in computer literacy training for adults, in contrast to traditional training methods. The positive results indicated how pedagogical interface agents could enhance computer literacy training in a third world context in terms of better quality, enjoyable training, and reaching more people simultaneously without the restriction of limited numbers of available human instructors. Being computer literate could throw a lifeline to many adults with little or no post-school training by giving them a better chance at employment with career growth prospects. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Ntima Mabanza.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Nguni Guguletu Ntukozo, with specialization in organic chemistry, met spesialisasie in organische chemie, with a thesis titled The Cosmetic Potential of Coya lacrima jobi and the Agrochemical Potential of Suralia repens, Maisa lanceolata, and Clerodendron glabrum. Promoter Dr. Fouchier, and co-promoters Professor van der Westhuizen Posthumus, and Dr. Anke Wilhelm.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randa Guguletu Ntukozo Nguni. The candidate makes a contribution to the field of natural product chemistry by identifying South African plants that can be developed into anti-aging agents and those that can be developed into herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides. The large number of plant species investigated in this study helped explore the rich South African biodiversity. Partnering with international academic institutions and industries gave this study an advantage as it opened access to international experts, instruments, and tests not available in South Africa and pulled together some of the top world-class scientists. 3 plants tested for agrochemical potential showed good results to be developed as organic pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, which will be a natural alternative, which will be cheaper and safer to animals and to the environment. Chancellor, I present to you Gugulethu Ntokozo Nguni.
A Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Niemand Alfonso, with specialization in disaster management met specialisasie in rampbestuur, with a thesis titled An Optimized Model for Regulatory Management of Human-Induced Health and Safety Risks Associated with Hazardous Facilities in South Africa. The promoter, Professor Andries Jordaan, co-promoter, Dr. H. Minnaar.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randus Niemand Alfonso. The candidate makes a contribution to a complex subject which has not yet been explored. With this contribution, he opens the door for a new health and safety regulation formulation dispensation in South Africa and other countries, specifically with regard to the vulnerability of communities and the sustainability of hazardous installations. His research led to the development of a regulatory model which he validated against case studies and local legislation. Part of his research results was already published in a local scientific journal and was presented at 2 international conferences. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Alfonso Niemand.
Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, West Deidre Teresa, a specialization in zoology met specialisasie in dierkunde, with a thesis titled Zooplankton of the Okavango Delta and Associated Basins in Botswana. The promoter, Professor Joe van As, and co-promoters, Professor Liesel van As and Dr. N.A. Reiner.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to the work of Deirdre West. The candidate investigated the taxonomy of freshwater zooplankton, a topic which has largely been neglected in southern Africa. She elucidated the species composition and distribution of planktonic aquatic invertebrates from the waterways of northern Botswana. Following an unforeseen flooding event which filled rivers and lakes that has been bone dry for between 30 and 40 years. During the study, a number of species were recorded from this area for the first time, and a new copepod species was discovered. More importantly, the study pointed out the remarkable role that these organisms play in the ecological dynamics of the temporary floodplains and of the ephemeral wetlands of the Okavango Delta and its associated basins. Mr. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Deirdre West.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the privilege to request you to confer the following degrees on the candidates I introduced to you. Master of Arts in Higher Education Studies, Botes Wits. Motaung Ntabiseng Francina. Strauss Jacoba Isabella. Ro Michelle. Master of Education. Thompson Japi Andres with specialization in policy studies and governance in education. Van Wyk Patricia Sibyl with specialization in policy studies and governance in education. Congratulations, Van Wyk. Mr. Chancellor, I now have the privilege to request you to confer the following doctoral degrees. I request the promoters to accompany the candidates to the podium. Doctor of Philosophy, Dick Liesel, with specialization in higher education studies. With a thesis, de integratie van geraste subjectiviteit binnen die context van voorgraadse Damascus-Hayes aan hoër onderwijsinstelling, Deleuze Quaternianse perspectief. Promoter Dr. A. Leroux, co-promoters Dr. F. Kruger and Dr. S.P. Van Tonner.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce to you Dr. Randa Dick Liesel. The candidate contributes to a different understanding of race and racialized subjectivities. She offers an alternative perspective on racial integration by arguing that subjectivity is a side effect of a process of connecting and becoming. She highlights the materiality of race by suggesting that material and immaterial components become viscous around certain phenotypes. The operationalization of Deleuze and Guattari's conceptual toolbox demonstrates how racialized subjectivities fluctuate between territorialization and deterritorialization. The study highlights how racialized subjectivities in a female residence can become undone to a greater or a lesser extent. Chancellor, I present to you Dick Liesel.
Doctor of Philosophy, Dube Bekitemba, with specialization in curriculum studies, with a thesis titled A Socio-Religious Hybridity Strategy to Respond to the Problems of Religious Studies in Zimbabwe. Promoter, Dr. M.M. Kwani, co-promoter, Prof. M.G. Mahlomahulu.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randus Dube Begitemba. The candidate aims to create a strategy that responds to 4 problems in religious studies, which are religious exclusivism, and then religious abuse, negation of indigenous knowledge systems, a lack of qualified teachers for religious studies. Critical to the study is the desire for hybridity of religious groups towards solving present social pathologies of the day that threaten the peaceful coexistence. The study is premised in the critical emancipatory research with working principles such as improvement of human conditions, elimination of false consciousness, sustainable social transformation, social justice, and emancipation. It is concluded from the intellectual work that the various religions can hybridize to ensure the peaceful coexistence of diverse people and improve their conditions. In addition, religious studies at secondary school level serve as an ideal space where hybridity of religions can be cultured for the benefit of the wider community. Chancellor, I present to you Dube Begitemba.
Doctor of Philosophy, Jita Tutukile, with specialization in curriculum studies, with a thesis titled Pre-Service Teachers' Competencies for Teaching Science through Information and Communication Technologies during Teaching Practice, promoter Professor M.G. Mahlomaholo. Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randa Jita Tutukile. The candidate contributes to the body of scholarship on the use of ICTs for subject-specific teaching and learning in schools. She argues that while the use of ICTs for a range of purposes has been on the increase in recent times, they are used to teach what is often considered difficult subjects at schools, such as physical sciences and mathematics, has sadly not been as pronounced. By tracing the problem back to universities where future teachers are trained, Jita found that final year science education student teachers exit the university with a fair amount of general knowledge of ICTs from their classes, but with little skill and experiences to use any of the ICT tools to teach their specific subject areas. She thus recommends that universities need to review their teacher education programs to include training and practice on the use of ICTs to teach and facilitate learning in science and other subjects. Furthermore, specific policy guidelines and assessment criteria should be developed to encourage future teachers to integrate ICTs during their practice teaching placement in schools. The study makes an immense contribution to an emerging field on ICT usage for teacher education in South Africa and has implications for addressing the digital divide in South African schools by ensuring that all future teachers can have the required competence to teach science and other subjects through ICTs. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Jita Tutukile. Doctor of Philosophy, Kanye Ayanda Pearl, with specialization in higher education studies, with a thesis titled Reflexively Fumbling Towards a Sustainable Career Choice in the Humanities. Promoter, Dr. DJ Hlalele, co-promoter, Dr. M.M. Nkwane.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randa Kanye Ayanda Pearl. The candidate makes a contribution to dealing with uncertainty and lack of clarity pertinent to career choices in the humanities, a subject which continues to be under the spotlight. Drawing from chaos theory of careers, the candidate traverses spaces that enable individuals to capitalize on change and chance in choosing a career that enacts personal meaning and social construction. Adopting a critical emancipatory research lens, participatory action research methodology, as well as critical discourse analysis, the study proposes constant engagement and reflection with certain career possibilities informed by thoughtful and reflexive practice. Chancellor, I present to you Kanye Ayanda Pearl.
Doctor of Philosophy, Lepiana Alice Mamutsiari, with specialization in psychology of education, with a thesis titled A Psychosocial Support Framework for Sustainable Learning for Learners from Child-Headed Households. Promoter, Dr. DJ Tlalele. Co-promoter, Professor Greg Alexander.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce to you Dr. Randa Lepiana Alice Mamutsiari. The candidate makes a contribution to a subject which is considered to be currently under the spotlight. With this contribution, she attempts to address the phenomenon of sustainable learning for learners from child-headed households by means of a psychosocial support framework. In this way, the gap is bridged between the emotional and cognitive factors, together with care and support, which are regarded as important building blocks for achievement in the classroom. The positive results of this investigation serve as an indication of the importance of a strong primary support structure that serves as a foundation and the value this type of support holds for an attempt to find a solution to the phenomenon of psychosocial challenges leading to poor academic performance. Chancellor, I present to you Lepiana Alice Mamutsiari.
Doctor of Philosophy, Makamure Chipo, with specialization in curriculum studies, with a thesis titled Learning to Teach Secondary School Mathematics from Practice, an exploration of the Zimbabwean pre-service teachers' year-long field experiences. Promoter, Prof. L.C. Jita.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randa Makamure Chipo. The candidate makes a significant contribution to the scholarship on learning to teach, especially learning to teach mathematics. Makamure begins by arguing that while teaching practice has always been thought of as an important component of teacher education, its role in developing the required expertise of pre-service teachers to improve mathematics teaching and learning in schools remains to be established. Previous studies in teacher education have argued for more time for student teachers to practice in schools in order to improve their expertise. Using their year-long teaching practice experiences of students at two major colleges of education in Zimbabwe, Makamure demonstrates that it is not the amount of time that pre-service teachers spend in schools that is critical to the development of knowledge and expertise. It is the quality of their experiences before teaching practice while at college, during teaching practice in the schools, and post-teaching practice when they are back at college. Her study recommends that teacher education programs need to prepare pre-service teachers adequately on the required content knowledge, practical competence, and expectations prior to placing them in schools. School-based teachers and college lecturers who are specifically trained in mentoring, supervision, and assessment of pre-service teachers should carefully supervise the practical experiences. The study concludes with recommendations for proper debriefing and assessment of competence after teaching practice, so that pre-service teachers who do not meet the performance requirement can be recommended for further placement and retraining before graduation. Chancellor, I present to you Makamure Chipo.
Doctor of Philosophy, Malebu Mutlui Andrew, with specialization in higher education studies, with a thesis titled Using Resource-Based Learning to Create Sustainable Learning Ecologies in Higher Education. Promoter Dr. DJ Hlalele, co-promoter Dr. MM Nkwani.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randus Malebo Mutlui Andrew. The candidate makes a contribution to establishing context for tools for acting on and with and scaffolding to guide the differentiation, interpretation, and use and understanding of resources in ways that are consistent with the epistemology, foundations, and assumptions of a given learning approach. Adopting a critical emancipatory research lens and participatory action research methodology, this contribution attempts to address the enhancement of teaching and learning in higher education. The positive results of this investigation serve as an indication of the value this type of intervention holds for the attempt to find a solution for the use of resource-based learning in order to create sustainable learning ecologies in higher education. This ecological balance on learning requires all parts of the university to act in ways that demonstrate self-awareness of their function and purpose in relation to the mission of the institution. Chancellor, I present to you Malebo Mutlui Andrew.
Doctor of Philosophy, Maybeck Elani, with specialization in higher education studies, with a thesis titled Service Learning as a Pedagogical Approach for the Enhancement of Employability Skills in BCom Students. Promoter, Dr. S.P. van Tonner, co-promoter, Professor M. Erasmus.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randa Meiburg Elani. The candidate makes an original and significant contribution to service learning as a component of community engagement, as well as to the development of students' employability skills through service learning in higher education. Her contribution confirms that service learning and the development of employability skills complement each other very well, and this ultimately culminates in a comprehensive framework for planning and implementing service learning modules or programs that will enhance the development of employability skills in economic and management sciences students. The framework was designed by integrating relevant literature and empirical data obtained through a qualitative, explorative case study research design with limited quantitative enhancement and involving multiple sources of information obtained from the same group of students in the Faculty of Economic and Management Sciences at the University of the Free State during 2013 and 2015 respectively. All three the examiners confirmed the originality and significance of the candidate's contribution to the field of higher education studies. Chancellor, I present to you Meiburg Elani.
Doctor of Philosophy, Pepenene Mohapi Jack, with specialization in comparative education and education management, with a thesis titled Management Strategy for Optimizing the Implementation of Educational Enrichment Programs in Youth Development, Recreation, Arts and Culture. Promoter, Dr. M.M. Nkwani, co-promoter, Prof. M.G. Mahlomaholo.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randus Pepenene Mohapi Jack. The candidate aims to formulate a novel management pathway to maximize implementation of EEPs in WIREC. Critical to the scholarly piece is a troubling discourses and narrowing the spaces between EEPs managers and learners as beneficiaries. The EEPs are harmonizing co-curricular activities and then enriching learners' schooling experience. This study presents an eloquent prose reinforced by participatory action research to realize critical epitomes of equity, social justice, democracy, respect, and hope. Conclusion from this intellectual piece are the novel management pathways as a function of collaborative, cooperative engagement by all stakeholders. The study also found that inequities with resources warrant the need for a novel management pathway. The study recommends a joint and accommodating commitment among all involved in educational enrichment programs. Chancellor, I present to you Pepenene Mohapi Jack.
Doctor of Philosophy, Reju Comfort Okuebune, with specialization in higher education studies, with a thesis titled Students' Experiences with Distance and Online Learning of University-Level Undergraduate Mathematics in Nigeria. Promoter, Professor L.C. Jita, co-promoter, Dr. DJ Muloi.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randa Reju Comfort Oku Egbune. The candidate contributes to an intersection of three bodies of scholarship in the areas of mathematics education, distance learning, and online learning. Reju investigates the four essential components of undergraduate mathematics learning, namely instructional delivery with appropriate technology, assessment procedures, learning facilitation, and support services at two major national distance and online universities in Nigeria. Through her investigation, Reju argues that despite the increasing and rich history of adoption of open and distance learning models in Nigeria, the availability of qualified and competent facilitators to support learning and to mitigate the many challenges of learning mathematics specifically through distance is possibly the most critical success factor for undergraduate program. Furthermore, the call by students for better and more up-to-date technologies, media, and institutional support with special emphasis on accessible, learner-friendly, soft and high technologies with stable internet access in distance and online mathematics learning has become more urgent and rather desperate. Reju's study thus recommends that regulatory agencies of higher education in Nigeria need to set up quality assurance mechanisms specifically to oversee the structures and practices of universities that offer distance and online programs, especially in the sciences, engineering, and other courses that require advanced mathematical literacy and competence. This study makes an important contribution to the theoretical and practical knowledge of student experiences in undergraduate mathematics learning through distance and online mode. Chancellor, I present to you Reju Comfort Oku Egbune.
Doctor of Philosophy, Rocher Pierre Connet, with specialization in philosophy and policy studies in education, with a thesis titled Toepasselijkheid van geheel school-evaluering proces om volhoudbare schoolontwikkeling te bevorderen. Promoter Dr. L. Jacobs, co-promoter Dr. KLG Daisy.
Mr. Chancellor, allow me to introduce to you Dr. Rondus Roche Pierre Corneille. The candidate makes a unique contribution to the knowledge of and insight into whole school evaluation and the processes that should follow such evaluation. The model explains the relationship between the different themes in order to enhance sustainable school development, which is very relevant to the current debate in South Africa. The recommendations of the study are exceptional contributions to the knowledge base. Mr. Chancellor, I present to you Roche Pierre Corneille. Thank you.
Doctor of Philosophy, Semoko Mailane, with specialization in higher education studies, with a thesis titled Post-Literacy in Lesotho, Implications for Training at the Institute of Extramural Studies. Promoter, Prof. J. Priest, co-promoter, Dr. C.N. Ndeyan Dereya.
Mr. Chancellor, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Randa Semoko Mailane. The candidate makes a contribution to the field of post-literacy in general and to the education of adult literacy facilitators specifically. With this contribution, she attempts to address the phenomenon of inadequacy of post-literacy training. She concludes that post-literacy training should be an extension of the already existing literacy practices embedded within social practices of local communities. The findings of this study serve as an indication of the value of rethinking the pedagogies for the development of relevant post-literacy materials. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Mailane Semoko.
Doctor of Philosophy, Tani Glodine Ondile Tinswalo, with specialization in philosophy and policy studies in education, with a thesis titled Towards Gender and Sexual Diversity in South African Schools, exploring the policy development process in the Department of Basic Education. Promoter, Prof. D. Francis, co-promoter, Dr. KLG Daisy.
Chancellor, allow me to introduce to you Dr. Randi Tani Glodine Kondile Tinswalo. The candidate makes a contribution to a subject which has already been under the spotlight for a considerable period of time. With this contribution, she attempts to address the bottlenecks affecting policy implementation within the basic education system. A number of interrelated factors emerge as responsible for the limitation of the implementation of the constitutional pronouncement, including silences within important policies and lack of knowledge, and the subject matter among policy implementers. The positive results of this investigation serve as an opportunity for the education system to reconcile the gaps that have been highlighted by this study and to address it by promoting policies and curriculum that mainstream the rights of gender and sexually diverse learners within the education system. Chancellor, I present to you Bongani, Claudine, Gondile, Tinswalo.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the privilege to request you to confer the following degrees on the candidates whom I will introduce to you. The degree Master of Laws, LLM. To Bumela S., with specialization in constitutional law and philosophy of law. Potgieter FF, with specialization in mercantile law. Mr. Chancellor, I now have the privilege to request you to confer the following doctoral degree, and I request and see that they are here, the promoter to accompany her candidate to the podium. The degree Doctor of Laws, Dr. Legum, Vivier Damien John, with specialization in mercantile law, with a thesis titled Mental Health and the World of Work, a comparative analysis of the legal frameworks governing categories of mental health conditions. Promoter, Dr. Deneen Smith. Co-promoter, Professor J.L. Pretorius.
Chancellor, please allow me to introduce to you Dr. Randers Vivier Damien John. The candidate makes a contribution to a subject which has not been afforded considerable legal consideration to date. With this contribution, he attempts to address the phenomenon of mental health conditions in the world of work, as well as the various legal considerations attached to these. Various areas of employment law with the emphasis on disability, discrimination, and reasonable accommodation are analyzed in order to assess the legal status of mental health conditions in the workplace. A comparative analysis attempts to bridge the gaps under the South African legal framework in this regard. The positive results and insights gleaned from this study serve as a valuable recommendation for South African law. At a mere 25 years of age, not only did he attain his LLD, but he's also published or co-authored 5 articles, as well as 3 chapters in a book to be published in 2017. Chancellor, I present to you Vivier Damien John.
Chancellor, I have the privilege to request you to confer the following degree on the candidate I introduce to you. Master of Theology, MTH. Gentile, TE, met specialisation in Religion Studies, met specialisatie in religiekunde.
Congratulations, everybody. We have a new batch of graduates from this university. And if you thought that this was the last time you were going to hear from us, you were wrong. Now you have become alumnus of the university. So you will have to understand what that means. And in order to introduce you to that, We have prepared a video so you can understand what your commitments are to this university now that you have your titles. Thank you very much.
You know when you're a student and when you sit there on your way to the stage, finally going to graduate, finally getting to get that piece of paper in your hand, the last thing you think about is how you're going to give back. That's the last thing I thought about. I mean, I just thought about the job that I'm going to do and the money that I'm going to make. And it only came later that I realized, how important it is to give back. My mentor at that stage told me that he'll teach me everything he knows on condition that I convey what he teaches me to somebody else. And I thought, who can I give back to? And the obvious answer, the University of the Free State.
I give back to my alma mater in 2 ways. I contribute to the No Student Hungry Bursary Fund. I also give back by working at the university in the communications office. I help by protecting the brand and the image of the university internally and externally.
I think giving back has, become such a big sphere. We always thought money, 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 donations. I am giving back with my time, with my skills, where I'm involved in faculty with tutor training, as well as residences, but also for marketing for the University of the Free State.
I work in the marketing department for the university, so I'm giving back my time and skill, which I think is great because it's the skill that I learned here. So I feel like it's a process, a full circle type of thing, whereby I recruit, they come, they study here, and at the end of the day, they'll be doing what I'm doing, once I'm done doing it. So they'll also be giving back, and that way the legacy carries on.
I don't park in parking spaces that's not allocated to me. No, I'm just joking. I give back. As a student media manager, I have a great job. I have the best job. My job is to train the next generation of journalists, the next generation of radio presenters, the next leaders.
I was given the opportunity to give back to my alma mater by being invited to join the council of the University of the Free State. And what we do is really discuss the business of the university and make very important decisions. I also sit on the audit and risk committee of the council and also on the finance committee.
I think alumni can give back in so many ways. Yes, those donations, very important, but I also think with our skills, we've certainly learned a lot out in the field. So coming back, working with offices like the Careers Office, with Center for Teaching and Learning, those skills could be highly appreciated by the community of the university.
You can give back in literally the most simple way, in the tiniest way. And that's really through social media. If you go like the COFSI pages, you just repost basically the events that will be happening in and around campus. Just by you reposting that and you showing your COFSI pride, someone picks up on it, and that's a seed being planted in someone's mind.
Get involved in projects such as No Student Hungry, Fund a Student, Fund a Future. You don't necessarily have to give your time, you can give your money, you can give your skills. As long as you give back, the future looks bright.
Giving back doesn't have to be financial. We value your time and your skills as well. Get in touch with the Alumni Office by emailing alumni@ufs.ac.za to find out how you can give back to the University of the Free State.
I now call upon the Chancellor to deliver his message and to close these proceedings.
Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. That's a little better. We've come to the end of the year. This is the last but one graduation session, with the last one happening this afternoon. And for some reason, I don't know whether it's because I'm now 61 years old, but I feel a little more tired this year, this time, than I normally do. And I know it has nothing to do with my age. But before I come to that issue, let me ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to give another round of applause to our graduates, both masters and doctoral. In particular, we only had 2 distinctions today. I'm going to ask that one lady and one gentleman to please rise. You there? Please rise. Where's the gentleman? There he is over there. Thank you very much. Today we only have 2 distinctions, but over the last few years, we've been observing a very pleasing trend, and I'll always talk about that trend because it pleases me so much. 6 years ago, when I first arrived as Chancellor of this university, the distinctions would be about 75% male and 75% white. Over the last 6 years, we've seen a trend, especially a gender-based trend, where literally the distinction, those who get their degrees in distinction, have now become 70-80% female. I don't know what has happened, but it's a trend that you observe across the disciplines, not in those usual disciplines where women, it was not surprising for women to excel in, like social sciences and humanities. That's the stereotype in the past. You see this trend in natural sciences, in health sciences, in economic sciences, and humanities, law, and theology. It's a very pleasing trend to me because it says that the world is no longer going to be run by the males of the species only. The world that we now have is a world that the males of the species have given us, and look at the kind of mess that the world is in. And I certainly look forward to the world that will be run by both the males and the females of the species, which I sincerely believe is going to be a more compassionate and a better world than the world run only by the males of the species. So congratulations to the 2 candidates who got their degrees in with distinction. You, the graduates, primarily you graduated because of your hard work, primarily, but not exclusively. You were the one who had to spend those sleepless nights to get the privilege of walking across the stage. But given the age of some of those who graduated today, those who are the other side of, say, 35 years old, you are probably leaving a husband and a wife behind to look after the children. Those who are on the good side of 35 years old, you are leaving a mother and a father, an uncle and aunt, an older brother, older sister, who were contributing to the fact that you are able today to walk across the stage. So I'm now going to ask you to rise, and for you to say congratulations and thank you to the people sitting on the bleachers who contributed so much to your ability to walk across the stage this morning. So please rise and say thank you to them. As you remain standing, and this particular graduation, because it's it cuts across disciplines. We have the biggest number of academics who come to join and celebrate with you. These were the teachers and lecturers and professors and mentors who were part of your journey for you to get to the point that you got to today. And one of the sad things that has happened in our country over the last, I think pretty much going back to the late 1970s, with June 16, 1976, as the starting point of the redefinition of the relationship between society and its teachers. On that day in 1976, when those young people walked out of Naledi High School and Maurice Isaacson and Orlando West and those schools and confronted the system, innocence was lost in the process. But one of the unintended consequences of that was that the status of the teacher got diminished in the eyes of society. And we're in trouble, we're in deep trouble because of that, as a society, as a nation. And I really want you and those sitting on the bleachers to very heartily say thank you and congratulations to the academic staff sitting in front of me and some sitting behind me. Let's say thank you that they still are willing to do what is fast becoming a very thankless job, which in many other societies is one of the most cherished jobs. But in our society, it's become a thankless job. Let's say thank you and congratulations to them. Can I please ask you to rise as well as we acknowledge them? Please, let's say thank you. Thank you very much. We can be seated now. This particular ceremony has a tinge of sadness to it because this university bids farewell in the next few days, few weeks, to two very cherished colleagues that I've truly come to respect and admire greatly. One of those is Professor Mahloma Hulu. If you can please rise, sir. Who is the Dean of the Faculty of Education. Professor Mahloma Hulu is retiring. I don't know why they allowed you to retire. Because to me, people of your caliber should not be lost to the system. I mean, you'd have seen as he remained standing, the kind of dean that he has been. In this graduation session today, we had as many people graduating out of the Faculty of Education as the Faculty of Agricultural and Natural Sciences. And that's unusual. That is unusual, Professor. For the 6 years that I've been sitting here, that faculty has been the faculty by far in terms of PhD graduations, with the largest number of PhD graduations. And I observed today the number of PhD graduates that came out of your faculty. But what I also observed is that you yourself supervised and co-supervised 3 of them. With your partners in crime, Dr. Ntwani and Hlalele and Professor Jita. I mean, you've been incredibly productive, not administratively as the academic leader of the faculty, but that did not take away from you the understanding that you remain fundamentally an academic and not a bureaucratic administrator, and continued to supervise and produce students. I think it was, I don't remember which graduation session it was, where you and Professor Walker each had produced about 5 or 6 PhD graduates in one session. You've been incredibly productive, and I'm sure this institution will miss not just the leadership that you provided in your position as the dean of the faculty, but also the commitment to the academic project that you continue to display. Good luck to you, whatever it is that you're going to do. I do sincerely hope that this institution will not lose you forever. Congratulations and good luck, sir. We're also saying farewell, as has been announced, to my dear friend. He's become an incredibly good friend of mine, the chairperson of the Council of the University of the Free State, Justice Ian van der Merwe. Over the last 6 years, I have come to truly appreciate an incredible South African that Justice van der Merwe is. Well, one of them, in fact, it's about this time of the year, Judge van der Merwe, when 3 years ago, I think it's been 3 years already, when Madiba passed on. It was at the time of the December graduation, so I was on this campus. And the judge and I, because I grew up in Bloemfontein, he grew up not in Bloemfontein, in the Free State, but he's been a Bloemfonteiner for so long. He feels like he has Bloemfontein in his DNA as well, as much as I do. And so he and I would talk about what Bloemfontein used to be like. And I would mention places that would just fascinate him. I mean, I remember one of those was, there was a prison just before you get into town, using the older subway, where the Anglican mission used to be. Right next to the Anglican mission, there was a prison there called Ramkraal. And in one of those conversations, I was talking about some of the people who used to get arrested and go taken to Ramkraal, and he was fascinated that even I knew that it used to be called Ramkraal. And on the day that, the morning on which we woke up and Madiba had passed on, he and I had agreed that we'll go and drive through the township together for me to show him the places that I've been talking about, where I was born, where I grew up, where my grandfather's cattle used to graze in the township here. And that's where we were when we got called back to come back here, because the Vice-Chancellor and the leadership of the university had organized a quick memorial service for Madiba. I'm going to miss you not just as a leader of this institution, in your position as chairman of council, but as a cherished and dear friend. And I certainly know, I know from my side, that this is not the end of my relationship with yourself. And in fact, we'll have a lot more visits into the township. I might even take you into a shebeen or two that I still go to, Judge. Not that I used to go to when I was much younger, that I still go to even now. And we wish you well in your very important role as a member of the Supreme Court of Appeals, which is the role that forced you ultimately to bring down the curtain as a member and chairperson of the Council of the University of the Free State. You've presided over the council during an incredibly exciting period in the life of this institution. One of the things that your council did was to take a decision that very few other institutions had enough guts and courage to take, and appoint Jonathan Jensen as your Vice-Chancellor. And you know, we all know that Jonathan was not the easiest of person to manage and to handle. And the combination of you and Jonathan, your reserved style versus his exuberant style, created an incredible combination where I could watching the two of you, that he did a lot to excite the difficult to excite part of you, and you tried your best to calm him down a little bit. You did not always succeed, but thanks to this institution that you did not always succeed, because that exuberance And that shooting from the hip was exactly what this institution and this country needed. And that combination of you and Jonathan has been a remarkable combination in the leadership of this institution. And we're losing the two of you within, 4 or 5 months of each other. And we'll wish your successor and his successor very well. But the boots that you and he left are incredibly huge boots to fill. But I have trust and faith in your colleagues on the council that in both identifying his successor, which was announced recently, and identifying your successor, that both of them will be worthy of being successors to you and to Jonathan. Congratulations and good luck to you, sir. One of the things that graduation sessions do to me, and I sit through many of them, is to always feel inspired. There's always something or two that will happen that will stay with me for a very, very long time as a moment of inspiration. And one such moment today for me was, I don't know whether it's Mr. or Dr. Swartboy. Dr. Swartboy, the dean says, because it was an M.Med degree. When you decided that you're going to stand up for the registrar to put that hood over your head and around your neck, you're going to stand up. He was ready to come down to where you were, where the chair was. But you decided that no, that's not how it's going to happen. Like everybody else, you're going to stand up. And you did. And you did stand up. Assisted, yes, but you stood up. And that will be a memory that I'll keep with me for many, many years to come. Hopefully, I still hope that I'm going to live for many, many years. And I sincerely hope that all those others that watch that determination and resolve in you will feel as inspired by that moment as I did. Thank you, sir, for inspiring me. The other moment of inspiration for me, and in fact this afternoon I'm going to ask that she remains in this hall and does not leave as usually happens, is the young lady, the Setswane Ntseki, who gave us that incredible piece at the beginning of this graduation ceremony. She's still in high school, ladies and gentlemen. She's still in high school. She's matriculating at Marasdal, and Dr. Liz, I sincerely hope that she does come here. She will come here. You will make sure that she comes here. You'll make sure that she comes here. Prof. Nikki? I mean, not only is she that young, but that body is so tiny. And where those lungs sit in that tiny body, in that young body to so effortlessly present what she presented to us is just incredibly amazing. Normally, we say thank you to them and they're not in the hall. Is she here? I see people pointing in that direction. Can she please come up if she's in the hall? Come. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, and how are you?
I'm fine. Get closer to the mic. You're fine.
Yes, I am.
You nervous? Why? Why?
I don't know.
You don't know. You have an incredible voice.
Thank you, sir.
You have an incredible poise that goes with that incredible voice.
Thank you.
Look after it. Because if you do, it will look after you. You have to look after it for it to look after you. And the best way to look after it is to come and study here. Anywhere else you go, you will not be helped to look after it as well as you would if you come here. You promise me that you'll come here? You promise me that you'll come here?
I'm not promising.
Prof. Nikki, she's not promising. But between you and I and Dr. Liz and everybody else, we'll help her make that decision. Congratulations to you, incredible talent. The other source of inspiration for me is the recipient of the honorary doctorate degree today, Ferial Haffajee. Ferial, it's become fashionable, especially this year, for people to talk truth to power. But you've been doing that even during the time when it was not fashionable to talk truth to power. You've been brave, and when one looks at the Thuli Madonselas of this world and how brave they decided to be, it's because of people like you. We're trailblazers in saying that you'll be very professional in what you do, and if your profession calls upon you to talk truth to power, you will do that. I appreciate in your citation the 100 South Africa project, and it is true. It is true that there is a sense in certain sections of this community, but even South Africa incorporated, that sense of a feeling of inferiority that we really don't belong yet. And people like yourself have said to us and have said to the world that yes, we do belong. We will talk truth to power, and it is not easy because there are risks in talking truth to power, and the bravery that you displayed. And I think this institution is deeply gratified to call you as one of the alumni of University of the Free State. And congratulations to you, and thank you for agreeing to associate yourself with us as an institution. Congratulations. Ndadra Gomez, what can I say? What can I say, sir? I mean, I certainly would like to have a copy of that speech, and I certainly would hope that it will be distributed slightly more broadly. You touched on all the key points that needed to be touched on by a nation that finds itself where this nation is right now. And thank you for those words of wisdom that you shared with us this morning. And we do hope that South Africa will listen to people like yourself. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude, a very brief message to our graduates today, our graduates now. I've been saying for the last 2 years or so that the world finds itself in a bit of a funny space right now. When you look at what's happening in Europe, the UK choosing to Brexit. When you look at what was happening in other European countries where right-wing governments are now being elected on a weekly basis. When you look at what many of us believed was absolutely unthinkable happen. Donald Trump is the president-elect of the United States of America, the most powerful nation in the world. Is now going to be led by a racist, sexist, misogynistic, narcissistic individual who thinks of himself and himself first and nobody else. We thought it was unthinkable that the Americans will elect him, and they did elect him. There's still a part of me. I spent 7.5 years of my life in that country as a student and a postdoc. There's a part of me that thinks he's not going to finish 4 years as the president of the US. He's done enough bad things in his life because he's such a bad person that something will happen that will stop that man from finishing 4 years. There's a part of me that just does not believe. In fact, the recount might even say he's not even properly elected. But be that as it may, that's the kind of space that the world is in. But out of this kind of worrying and chaotic space that our world is in, our country is also finding itself in a very, very peculiar space. But for some reason, and the more I think about it, the more I know I'm right. Our democracy is coming out tops. Out of what may seem and appear like chaos. When those red overalls in Parliament do their thing, they actually gave our democracy's roots to go deeper than how deep the roots went when Nelson Mandela planted the tree of democracy. Up until now, up until 2012, 2013, our democracy was Mandela's democracy. It was not ours. We believed in it because we believed in him. He was its father, he was its custodian. But that was always going to be very shaky. He dies, he died 3 years ago, and we hardly ever celebrated him. 2-3 days ago. So we're starting to forget about him. And the question is, as we forget about him, what about his democracy? And thanks to two people who will surprise many of you, our democracy is deepening. And those two people are Jacob Zuma and Julius Malema. These two individuals are giving the roots of our democracy to go deeper and deeper and deeper because of the mutual hatred that they have. It is out of that mutual hatred that the money was paid back. And after the money gets paid back, all of a sudden, the invincible starts to become a little more vulnerable. The underbelly starts to get exposed a little bit, and it proves to be a little softer than people thought it was. And I was saying to Ferial, as we were walking in, and the justice is sitting here, he's not going to appreciate what I'm going to say. I'm not a legally trained person, but reading that judgment of the Nkandla matter, I could not help but say that the justices went a little further than the matter before them required of them to do. Because they looked at that situation and says, here is an incredible opportunity for us to interpret this constitution for this nation. To say, what does it mean to be a constitutional democracy? And Thuli Madonsela comes and takes huge risks to life and limb and profession and career, and becomes the public protector that she became. Ladies and gentlemen, our democracy is in good hands. Thanks to Jacob Zuma and Julius Malema and people like the Thuli Madonselas and Justice Mogoeng and everybody else. And now we're seeing the veterans of the African National Congress starting to say, not in our name. So this is the space that you're graduating into. The question is, given what Ndadera Kometsi said is needed of leadership in this country today, what kind of participant in this exercise are you going to be? Are you going to be the innovative one or the bureaucratic one? Are you going to be the one that says that we all still collectively in the process of making sure that this democracy roots properly and it's properly watered and nourished? Are you going to be one of those through your specifically chosen profession who will say, not in my name? Who will say, I know there are risks in servant leadership. I know there are risks in courageous leadership. Are you going to allow those risks to hold you back? Or are you going to say, many before me and many after me will take actions even more riskier than I can contemplate now. So why would I not also take the risks to be a courageous leader and to be a servant leader? A leader that will say, I am an agent, but it's bigger than me, but I'm just an agent. That's the kind of graduate that this university would hope you will prove to be. The one that, when you saw that video up there, when you speak as an alumnus of this institution, one that this institution will say, aren't we glad he came here? And one day, Sitwani will be sitting where you are sitting and will be saying, aren't we glad she came here? Go out there and go do us proud. Come back here. Come and plow back into this institution, not just through money, through your skills and expertise, through how you will carry yourself in your career and your profession, wherever else you end up. So that people look at you and say, she comes from that institution. He comes from that institution. But good luck to you. And God do us proud. Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this graduation session. The university takes pleasure in inviting you for tea, coffee, and juice in the H. van der Merwe Scholes Hall, which is to the northwest of this venue. We will shortly rise and join in the singing of the national anthem, which will be led by none other than Sitwani Ntseki and accompanied by an ensemble directed by Anton Esterhazy, after which you are requested to remain standing while the congregation is dissolved and until the main and academic processions have left the hall. Shall you please rise?
Israel,
By virtue of the power vested in me as Chancellor, I hereby dissolve this congregation of the University of the Free State.
That's